Hi, Victor. How are you?
Hi, George. I'm good. How are you?
Okay, I am good too. And today we are here with a discussion on something very interesting, something you introduced me to. I always was aware of it, but then did not pay too much attention to it because I said it's still an embryo. Let it mature a little before I focus my attention on it. But thanks to you, got my attention back to it, and that is the ONDC, which is the Open Network for Digital Commerce, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So very interesting possibilities there. When you look at it from a distance, it seems as if how is it even going to be implemented, right? You've got such a efficient system of Amazon working. How is something like ONDC, which has so many loose ends and so many variables, how is that going to get implemented? But I think technology helps, right? And our our value in using technology, which has been demonstrated well with UPI. I think that is going to back us to a fair extent on ONDC also. So, but before I start, let me give a brief background of my understanding of ONDC, and then maybe you could also pitch in your thoughts because since you've already written an article on this in the process, but yes, at least you'd have a better insight. So, what I understand of ONDC is that it is basically a platform freeing the e-commerce space, right? So right now for e-commerce, we've got Amazon and Flipkart for most products. We've got services through Zomato, Swiggy. We've got services also happening through things like Urban Company and things like that. Right. So there are goods and services which are there with manufacturers or with service providers, and there are these big, huge platforms, right? Well funded, deep pocket platforms who are there, who are coordinating the traffic or who are sort of, in a way, filtering the traffic also between the pool of manufacturers and the large pool of customers that we have. So, what ONDC plans to do is, through the government's intervention, yes, but is to provide an open platform, right? So, democratization there to provide an open platform so that customer who has a need is able to post that need on an application which is based on the ONDC, and that request then goes out to potential suppliers, right? And whoever is able to provide the best, cheapest, whatever, fastest service as per the customer's requirements is then able to use the ONDC platform to connect to the consumer. And because this is a platform that brings about not just producers and service providers. Brings in service providers in the form of logistics companies also, right? So a customer is able to pick up a good from a certain manufacturer, and also opt for maybe a service logistics partner that suits that person, right? Maybe someone's at a remote location and does not, and maybe the big courier companies do not deliver there. So maybe he or she could rely on the Indian Post, which could also be part of the ONDC, and then have the product delivered through Indian Post, which might actually lead to a successful delivery instead of trying with the big private players and failing, right? So somewhere it is a democratization of that intervening platform between suppliers and buyers. So over to you and your idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, George. I mean, you have explained ONDC what in principle what it is very well. So, what I'll try to do is I'll maybe take a step back and try to explain why ONDC was even needed, right? Why did the government even think of a platform like an ONDC? So, if you look at the e-commerce space right now, we have two major players, right? One Amazon and the other is Flipkart. Now, both of these are foreign players. I mean, both of these are not Indian companies per se. Amazon obviously was not, and Flipkart has been bought by Walmart. So we have these two giants, which are not Indian companies, who are occupying more than 60% of the market share. in the e-commerce space, right? And obviously there are privacy concerns when companies are foreign owned and who occupy such a huge space in a given industry. So government will have concerns. But the even bigger concern here is that because of these companies, the smaller retailers of our country and India, it thrives on its MSMEs, right? It thrives on its MSMEs. So uh, the smaller retailers are really suffering because of this. Okay, if you look at Amazon and Flipkart, they operate the marketplace model, and I'll just explain what marketplace model is. So there are two models which any e-commerce industry anywhere in the world basically run. One is the inventory model, and the other is the marketplace model. Inventory model is where, say, if I'm the e-commerce company, I'm going to buy, say you are my supplier. I'm going to buy products in bulk, right? Bring it in my warehouses, and then I'm going to sell to my customers at dirt cheap rates, right? I'll be buying those products from you, right? Once I buy it, you have no control over the pricing of it that I'll be passing on to my consumer. Something, for example, the Walmart does, right? They buy in bulk, right? And they provide customers at dirt cheap rates. So that is the inventory model where basically any company has their own inventory. The marketplace model is where a company basically acts as a marketplace. There will be buyers, so basically consumers, and there are independent sellers, right? So if you are a seller and I have my marketplace, you can list your company, your product on my platform, and there will be other customers who will, if they wish, they can buy from you. And it's not just about you who will be listing, there will be many other sellers also who will be listing, right? Now, that so the reason why Amazon and Flipkart have undertaken or rather have adopted the marketplace model is because in India, FDI, that is foreign direct investment, is allowed only in the marketplace model and not in the inventory model. Right? If you compare the two models, profit margins in inventory model is much higher. Profit margins in the inventory model is much higher compared to marketplace model. However, these companies, since they are not Indian companies, so they have to have FDIs, and for that they have adopted the marketplace model. Okay, so that is the reason why this marketplace model is so common and popular in India. Now, the problem here with the marketplace model is these companies obviously are cutting down on the profit margins because given a choice, they would have gone for the inventory model, something that Walmart does. So what they're doing is when you have so many sellers and you have this one web page, the question of listing comes in. Similar to what Google does, right? You have so many listings, I mean, so many websites. When a query is being searched on Google, the question is which website is going to be given the first rank, then the second and third and fourth. So that's a listing problem. Similarly, in for e-commerce companies also, they have the same problem. How do they list it? Okay, now, this obviously is a problem not just for the e-commerce companies, it's also a problem for the sellers as well. There have been a lot of such cases where platform bias, the allegation of platform bias has been given on the e-commerce company. That is, so if there are 30 companies selling the same product, which 10 companies or which 5 companies are being listed in the first page? How do e-commerce companies decide on that? Okay. So one of the practices that these e-commerce companies have been adopting is if you look at the model, okay, these companies have a lot of data. They know which product sells at which time, at which location, which features do consumers like, what are the search queries they put. So these companies, Amazon and Flipkart, have a lot of data. So what they do is with this data, they invest or they set up their own firm, which is an independent firm, right? Which will act like a seller, and that seller will list on, say, Amazon. Okay, now this seller is owned by Amazon, is going to list on Amazon. So obviously, Amazon is going to boost the products of that seller, right? So Cloudtail, Apparel, these are apparently companies which are uh, owned by Amazon, right? And if you look at the listings, you'll find products of these companies when whichever product they're selling, they're usually boosted in the up, right? So it's a basic conflict of interest. As a marketplace model, you should not show any bias towards any particular seller. You should have a platform algorithm based on certain rules, and whoever plays the game well should have proper listings, right? Something like what Google does. But in case of Amazon, in case of Flipkart, they invest directly or indirectly in other intermediaries, which are sellers, and those products are being boosted up. And what happens, whichever listings are shown up, those get sold, right? That's what we do. When we search for it, we don't go to page 5 or 6, right? We basically buy from the first page itself. What does it mean? It means that other sellers, which are not supported by Amazon or Flipkart or the platform for that matter, they are at a loss, right? They are losing out on business. For one, the physical stores anyway are struggling because online space, consumers prefer more online shopping, especially in the pandemic times more. So it happened. And second, even if they're trying to be in that platform, in that marketplace, they just don't have enough bandwidth or the competence or the ability to be listed up, right? That conflict of interest that is going on. In this context, the government has now thought that we need to support the smaller retailers because they are the backbone of our economy, right? The MSMEs. So ONDC has been conceptualized. So what is ONDC? You have rightly already shared this. It's Open Network for Digital Commerce, something like a UPI. So it's a platform, right? Again, it's sort of a marketplace. But here, since the government will not own any company, so the question of platform bias will not be there. So it's an algorithm. The listing problem is still going to be there, but then there'll be some checks and balances. I mean, when the algorithm is designed, there will be some conditions. So if you fulfill these conditions, you will be listed in the top. If not, next, next, next. That's how it happens, right? But the point is there'll be no conflict of interest as such, right? So now small retailers, they can list themselves, right? And they do not have to fear about platform bias. It's not just small retailers. Even Amazon and Flipkart can also list themselves on ONDC. Even Zomato, Dunzo, all the logistics platform, the food aggregators, everyone can list themselves on ONDC. So from a consumer perspective, it becomes my one-stop shop, right? I can order food. I can, if I want to order food, I can go to ONDC rather than having both Zomato and Swiggy on my mobile. I want to order something. I don't need to have Amazon and Flipkart. I can straight away go to ONDC and order anything that I want to buy. I want to deliver logistics partner. I can even choose that. Okay. I'll add just one more thing before I pass it over to you. Right now, so for example, when it comes to Zomato or Swiggy, if I want to order food, we do not have the option to choose a logistics partner. It's the platform which does it, right? But in case of ONDC, what will happen is I can order food on Zomato, for example. I can also choose which logistics company is going to deliver that food to me, right? So, for example, there are three logistics company which at that point are available to deliver the food from that shop, from that restaurant to my place. And I see that out of ABC, that three logistics company, C is charging the lowest fees for delivering the food to me. I can choose C over A and B, even though, for example, A might be tied with Zomato. So ONDs will give me that flexibility. So for consumers, that means a lot of more options, right? For smaller retailers, it also means that at least the fear of platform bias is not going to be there. There will still be challenges, not a perfect system, and we'll discuss more on this, right? But if we just talk of the stakeholders, it's a platform where everyone is going to get equal opportunities, be it smaller retailers, be it bigger players, and customers will get a lot of more choices, right? So that was the context behind ONDC and what it is. Now, over to you if you want to add more on this.
So I wanted to act like a devil's advocate and bring in a contra perspective. Right? While it seems that Amazon and Flipkart are doing a bad thing by having these platform brands, as you said, or in-house brands that they have, right, and promoting them on the platforms, is it is it actually that bad, right? Because one, these companies being established companies, their quality control, etc., is fairly high. So the products that they are creating are fairly of a good quality, right? And for a consumer, I mean, as a consumer, when I see it, there are multiple things that I do buy from Amazon, which are Amazon's own products, and I am aware of that. But then when I look at the other alternatives, when I've tried the other alternatives, I've been disheartened by the quality, right? Local manufacturers, the sort of quality that they have delivered at a similar price or maybe more expensive also, I have had trouble with their quality. Now, with their platform brands, these large companies, these large platforms, they are at least imposing quality control also, where I do not, I can trust, right? If I I'm looking at a product, I can trust that it is an Amazon backed venture. So therefore, quality would be maintained, and therefore I'm okay ordering that product without the fear of or without the apprehension that I might need to get into that return process also. Right? So that was one thought that I wanted to put out. The other being, I mean, which is again works on the food delivery aspect also. I might have that choice of deciding which logistics partner to ultimately get the delivery from. Now, when there is going to be an issue, these are all best case scenario. These are all um, ideal situations where everything is working fine. But then what happens when things are not fine? What happens when the small retailers are out to make, they're also opportunists, right? They're out to make a quick buck and they create a shoddy product, right? What happens at that time? In food delivery, my reason for going back to Zomato multiple times has been that um, if there is an issue, they have resolved it at most situations. I know they are charging me a huge amount for that delivery also, right? Earlier it used to be discounted and free, but now they charge openly for their deliveries. Now, in that situation, um, take an example of a delivery where I ordered something from a restaurant, and when it was delivered to me, the contents had spilt out, right? And this is what has happened to me also with a Zomato order. And now, who do I hold responsible? Do I hold the delivery guy responsible? Do I hold the restaurant responsible because the delivery guy says they did not seal it well, they did not seal the container well? But for me right now, I have the option that I can go to Zomato, complain to Zomato. Zomato will decide whether it's the restaurant's fault or the delivery agent's fault, and then they take action accordingly, and I get a better service. Right? Now, in an open network, one might one might continue to see, and the other factor in this is, why is Amazon giving better quality at cheaper rates right now? They're trying to capture the market. Once the market is captured, they'll start charging more. They'll start skimming the market too, right? Um, if if uh, if it does not happen, or if while waiting for that situation to come when Amazon is able to capture the market, at least I am getting the assurance of good service in that intervening period at least. ONDC looks at democratizing it, and that you have that cost, right? That you've got teething problems, you go through that initial problem of maybe getting lesser delivery, and then wait that over time the system settles down, and then you're able to get better service and better delivery, and maybe at better cost also, right? So there is that precarious balance between right now and long term, and whether that long term is achievable also, and whether that short term is just going to be short term, we don't know, right? So those were
Yes,
my thoughts.
these are like valid points. So I'll start from the beginning. So when you said, is it really bad? I mean, the current model, is it really bad? Because the question is it really bad for whom? Okay, for consumers it's not necessarily right. What we really want is, or what matters to us is good service, good products, good experience. That's it, right? That's what we want, and we are getting this at this moment, and we need trust, right? And these models are very trusted. We have, for years we have been using this. So for consumers, this current model obviously does no harm, at least. For the platforms, no, I mean, they need to generate more money, right? Given the restrictions on the marketplace, so they're playing that game well. So for them also, it suits very well. It's bad for the other people, the other stakeholders like the retailers and other smaller businesses who are unable or do not have the resources to play this game, right? And now, if you look at a country when it comes to government, right, and I'm talking of government, not any political party, but in government, government's responsibility is to understand which are the essential pillars of our economy, and once you identify them, how do we support them?
Mhm.
Now, the fact right now is that the MSMEs and the startup ecosystem, they are contributing a huge. I don't remember the numbers, and I don't want to quote any false numbers here, but they are like in a way the backbone of economy, right? This two three players which are playing pretty much a monopolistic game. Uh, in the short run, perhaps they might be good for the economy and everyone, but in the long run, if there is no one left competing against them, they might start playing the other game, which is not suitable for the economy, for the country, and even for consumers, right? I mean, once you are a monopoly, then you can tend to play, and that's where the evil of capitalism comes in, right? But the point is, so for the government, they have to provide a level playing field so that the part of the economy which does not have support and yet matters to us for the overall economy, they get a level playing field. Okay, so to answer your question, it is bad for that sector, for those retailers, for those MSMEs, for those companies which did not have access to resources to play this game that these bigger players are playing. Right, that's the first thing. Second, about the trust thing, you say that we only trust them. So in ONDC, it's going to provide a democratized platform. So the one good thing about ONDC is that it's not going to uh, be another competition to Amazon and Flipkart as such. It's not trying to position itself that either you buy from Amazon or from Flipkart or from us, right? It is saying that even you, that is Amazon and Flipkart, also can come and list themselves on us. Okay? So, for example, if I'm a consumer, I know that all my trusted brands are going to be there on ONDC. I don't need to have those brands separately as an app on my mobile, right? Those brands are still going to there. So, for example, I as a consumer do not care about those things that were small retailers, whether they should be supported or not. All I care is good quality, good product, good service. That's it, and I need from my trusted brand. Right? And for example, my trusted brand is say Mintra or say or any other popular name. I'll straight away go to ONDC and go to Mintra or Nika or anything that, and I'll buy from them, right? I'll buy from Amazon, I'll buy from Walmart, there's Flipkart. I'm not going to buy from any other small retailer, right? I'll have that option. If I want to order from Zomato, I will order from Zomato and not from anyone else, not from any independent listings or any independent restaurant, right? I'll do that, right? So for consumers, it's not any it does not provide any disadvantage to the consumers. I mean, this model, all it will do is provide more options, and if I don't want more options as a consumer, I can always rely on my trusted brands and as well, not an issue. However, the and this is where we'll also bring in the challenges, and I'll ask you about that maybe. But before that, however, here, if you look at Amazon and Flipkart and all the trusted brands, they're already playing their A game and they're very trusted brands. Now, for example, if I'm a small retailer, right now I was not getting any chance to play with them. Okay, I was being discriminated against because of ONDC. I'll have it at least play a fair game now. I know that the game is fair at least. The question is whether I am good enough to win this battle or not, or at least survive in this battle or not. Right. So that will essentially mean if the pitch is uniform for everyone, or it's a level playing field for everyone. Now, even for the small retailers or the MSMEs or the other startups, they know that it's uniform for everyone, but the bigger players will always have the leverage because they have the trust, they have the resources. If I have to compete with them now, I will have to level up my game now, right? Because it's the same play. Right now, when the pitch is different, the field is different. As consumers, we're not even considering any other smaller retailers. We're just going to the trusted ones. Thanks to Indus, at least they will have the chance to make themselves visible. Maybe say out of 100 products, maybe 70-75 of them would be won by the established ones. But maybe there are those 20-25 products which where the smaller retailers perhaps may win. Right? It's also competition among product sizes, that SKUs concept that comes in the FMCG companies play. But the point is, uh, the smaller retailers will now at least know that the it's a uniform pitch. I'll also up my game. So when they up their game, that means what? Their quality also have to improve. Quality has to improve. The service has to improve. The experience has to improve. For example, return policy and everything. They also have to upgrade, just like the bigger players, right? So for consumers also, it's a win. It's a win-win game, right? And we'll know that there'll be more efficient companies in the marketplace now. Okay? So I
True.
think that's how ONDC in will democratize. But having said this, there will be challenges for sure. So first, I'd like to ask you, what do you think? What are the challenges that you can perceive right now? I mean, it's just in the pilot phase, and maybe then I can follow.
So, one challenge I see is the entire logistics coordination, right? Because the Indian consumer has been spoiled, unlike the American consumer. The Indian consumer has been spoilt by this thing of free delivery, right? In the US, most of these e-commerce platforms don't offer free delivery as a default, right? But we've from the beginning been spoilt by this offer of free delivery, and Amazon still offers free delivery, and Flipkart also, Myntra also, based on your order size or based on your subscription to their annual plans, etc. They offer free delivery, right? Now that free delivery also, to a large extent, involves free returns, right? The reverse logistics. So there is the forward logistics and the reverse logistics. Right now, uh, we are uh, we are immune to that thought of that being a cost, right? But going forward with ONDC, when you are going to select a delivery partner, then you will see a cost for your shipping, right? So your forward logistics would involve a cost. Now your reverse logistics also, then the platform needs to be seamless in coordinating that. Right now, when I have a return with Amazon, I do not need to think twice, right? But when I've ordered or from Myntra also, I can order, try, I do not like it, return it, right? I've had a similar experience. I've had an experience with Agio, right, which is the Reliance sponsored uh, clothing whatever platform, and it was so troublesome, right? It was torturous because one, they first refused to do a return, right? And then when I insisted and escalated the matter, they did a pickup. Now one pickup happened, and the next day there was another message saying that your order will be picked up. Now there's a person who's coming and asking, give me your return item. I said, we said that we've already returned it, but then, and this person said no, but on my phone it shows that I need to pick up, and therefore I'm going to say that customer has refused. And then I get a message from Agio saying that you haven't returned your product, while somewhere in their records they've already uh, received a return and they've logged that in also. But then they have this open query. That open return request lasted for almost 15-20 days, with almost daily visits and daily SMSs from Agio saying that you haven't returned your product, you haven't returned your product. So somewhere I see all these little niggles um, being a little torturous for the customer, but then it's also about braving it through. Somewhere there's light on the other side of the platform, or the other side of this railway platform. But one thing I wanted to just add in, it's not a challenge that I see, but the way I see how it could get implemented, right? So we had Paytm, which was very successful with its wallet model. And then you had UPI coming in, and then Paytm latching onto the UPI platform also. And then you had Paytm UPI, right? So you have Paytm and you've got Paytm UPI. So I think Amazon and Flipkart also would latch on in a similar way. They have Amazon, and maybe like an Amazon Lite or something, they might have a Amazon ONDC, right? Where you buy things, Amazon still maintains the same platform. You can buy whatever you want, and I mean, they've got their suppliers, they've got you as a customer, and you then use the ONDC platform to decide uh, which logistics provider I want, what sort of listing are they going to show, and things like that. So that is one um, what long-term view that I see of how this might come up. Your thoughts on the challenges?
Yes. So I resonate with you here. So one major challenge that I see is, and it stems from the very purpose of launching ONDC. I mean, at the very basic, the purpose of launching ONDC is to support the small retailers, the one discriminated against. Now, with this, if that is the purpose, the very challenge that they'll get is you will have the smaller retailers, you'll also have the bigger retailers and all the established platform companies on the same platform. Now, those players, once they understand your algorithm, they will play the game much better than anyone else because they have the resources, right? So again, the same thing. So how does ONDC as a platform in this scenario help the small retailers? Right? And if they do something to boost up the smaller retailer, then they will have to go against their own platform rules, where it's a level playing field. Right? If you're saying it's a level playing field, then everyone you will have to allow everyone to play the same game. Whoever is better will win. Right? But if you do that, it also means that maybe the small retailers will lose out, right? But your purpose is that to help the small retailer. So it's a contradiction, right? I mean, it's a challenge. So basically, it's a challenge, and how do you do that? That's a big thing. So for me, this is one of the bigger things, right? So it might also, I mean, one way to mitigate this, and there will be a lot of other ways, I'm sure, but they will think through. And but I don't think it's only an platform problem or an infrastructure problem. It also has to be dealt with much more consumer awareness, right? I mean, in a way, movement has to start where consumers also start understanding why it's important to support the MSMEs, the other smaller retailers. And I mean, it's not about coercing them or trying to push the consumers away from the bigger platforms. It's fine. I mean, for example, big ticket items, the bigger platforms are much more trusted, and that's all good. But for the smaller ticket items, right? Can't we help the smaller retailers or not? For example, buying books or buying smaller items, like which is a range of say 500, 1,000 rupees, smaller ticket items, we can maybe buy from smaller retailers. That awareness among the consumers also have to be raised. And I think since it's starting from the government end, I think they have the bandwidth to also propagate that message, that awareness for the consumers to help the smaller retailers with this. Right? For big ticket items, I understand 5,000, 10K, 20K, you want to buy. It's, I mean, the bigger platforms are much more trusted. Till those smaller ones gain their trust, they may not be the first option to choose. But yeah, that's a challenge. And I'm talking from the perspective of the makers of ONDC. That how do you deal with this? Uh, then the second thing, and that's slightly related to it. Uh, the fact is that what Amazon is doing right now in their platform. For example, even Flipkart is doing, where they have their own subsidiaries, the intermediaries, which are allowing themselves. And these are independent companies. Amazon will not show them in their books. They will just show as investments that we have certain equity bought in that. Even these companies can, for example, buy even more suppliers or buyers, which the size will still be small, right? And they'll not maybe even come in the limelight that these are invested by Amazon or Flipkart or any other big player, right? This sellers will still be intentionally kept small, and since they're small, they will also perhaps be boosted on ONDC, right? So in a way, what is happening? The money is still going to the bigger players' pockets, slightly later, right? But they can play also that game, which I think they would at some point, right? If they see, right? So this is also another. So how does ONDC identify those and not give any partial treatment to that? So identifying that thing for ONDC is important, right? And obviously the third thing is that uh, responsibility, about the thing about responsibility. Where does the buck stop? That sense of accountability has to be there. Today, if I, for example, uh, if I order something from Swiggy, and if the food doesn't come to me properly, it might happen that Swiggy has actually partnered with another third logistics company. It was the fault of that company that it did not reach to me properly. But since I don't know which company that is, I am blaming it on Swiggy, right? On ONDC, I may choose, but then the supply chain also has to be clear to the consumer as to where the fault is. There might be a case where one company may pass on the buck to the other, and we may start distrusting everyone. I mean, in the supply chain, or maybe the wrong chain node on this on that supply chain. As consumers, we may start blaming. So that is another aspect where ONDC has to be really careful. It has to understand. It has to ensure that consumers understand where the accountability of the buck stops, those things. I mean, that is an important aspect, and it's also in the interest of the businesses, right? And I'm sure the business also will try to understand how they are safeguarded against wrongly being distrusted or wrongly being blamed. There's another aspect. right? So I think I see this couple, two, three main challenges, but mainly is the first one that I said. How do you ensure that the bigger players still don't get up, because they are big means they will use the resources, right? And I don't think Amazon. I mean, it will also happen that Amazon, Flipkart will still continue to play that game. There will be a parallel ONDC where they will still where they will be there as well, right? So that's it. One more thing, there can be another option where ONDC in the initial days do not allow the bigger players to list right now, but if they don't do it, that means you're directly competing with them. Then consumers would not trust. So you'll have to anyway try to onboard them right on the first day. And I think they are trying to do it, right? So they will have to be there. You have to play that level playing field. So, but yeah, these are my thoughts on the challenges. What's your take?
So I'll just comment on the first and second, and I agree with all the concerns that you have. The first one is almost like the problem the mother bird faces or the bird faces when it comes back to its nest with food in its beak, right? The loudest chick gets the worm, right? So something like that here, whoever is able to use their muscle power, they'll be able to get maximum visibility on the ONDC also. So how do you counter that? You need to do something about it. Maybe we know of this common thing in nature. Maybe nature also has found a solution where you have some animals, they maintain some sort of a logic in ensuring that all their young ones. I mean, so it's not always Darwin everywhere, right? It's not always survival of the fittest. There might be some animals which are taking ensuring some sort of equity, right? So equity would be one important thing that ONDC would need to ensure as part of its basic delivery. The second thing, what you spoke about multiple brands being launched by these large players. So I had read somewhere about this Thrasio model, which is a platform, which is a, a company in the US which acquires multiple brands, right, and creates a sort of house of brands, right? So here also Amazon can go out and acquire multiple brands which might be doing well, right? So starts off with ONDC as it is, and then when they see certain brands or certain maybe businesses doing well, they go and make investments in those businesses, and over time they create. I mean, they are able to breach the moat by going on to the other side and acquiring the actual sellers, right? That is also good, right? You might have some businesses getting good exits, right, and getting a good platform in these through the ONDC, right? And maybe instead of looking for VCs and for funding companies, maybe they get the exit directly to an Amazon or a Flipkart, right? So exciting times, right? Which we see ahead. Confidence comes from the fact that we've had a runaway success with NPCI's UPI, right? And hopefully we'd be able to sort of replicate something on those lines. Um, it's going to be highly technology dependent, input dependent as far as technology is concerned. But I think I see some hope at the end of the tunnel, some light, and it would be a different world, right? 10 years ago, we did not have that insight of how to shop for everything on the internet, right? And now Amazon and Flipkart are like second nature for us, right? uh, if I need to order anything, my daughter has been voraciously reading books, the younger one, and now I need to buy books, but then buying books is expensive, right? um Novels and stuff. She started reading Nancy Drews, so now multiple Nancy Drews she's sort of eaten through. Now if I want to look for options, I am not actually thinking of going to a bookstore. I'm thinking of checking on the internet, and I looked for options on Amazon, but I still found them to be a little expensive. And now I'm looking at other options. Are there any other things? And Google is doing that for me. So think that there could have been. There again, I'd like to bring in another thing. These companies, which would be hosting the applications which run on the ONDC, right? There again, I see a lot of potential for companies, maybe like a Google, right? Google did Google Pay. It can also develop uh, an a consumer facing application, right? It has a lot of insights about you, and it creates a consumer facing application which overlays on the ONDC, and then the rest of everything works through ONDC. But then here you've got Google, which, and maybe Facebook also, which know a lot about you, and they put on a layer on ONDC, and then they're able to give you suggestions. Uh, and with the sort of deep pockets that they have, would they become the next Amazon? And would could it actually be uh, Google and Facebook's break into e-commerce, which were Amazon and Walmart strongholds till now?
Yeah,
But then it's again democratization.
that's true. Absolutely. So, but one good thing about this is that as you brought it out about NPCI, about UPI, the same people, the same smarter folks who were
The password.
involved in building that, they are also involved in this, like Mr. Nandan Nilekani, Thomas Kaushi, who is leading this project of ONDC. So that gives us a lot of hope that if they have cracked that game, yes, ONDC is a much bigger game. It's a much, the canvas is much bigger. And though we are talking of ONDC being impacting the e-commerce industry only, but I think it has a much larger scope. It will be impacting the entire digital ecosystem of the country. Because if you look at it, it's not just the e-commerce company or the retailers who will be listing themselves on it. You will have the food aggregators, you will have the payments app, you will have the logistics guys, everyone, you will have the banks will be there. Everyone would be there on this platform. So it means the entire digital ecosystem, in a way, might see a transition, might see a shift, right? We don't know how, whether we can call it a paradigm shift yet, but yes, certainly there's going to be some movement. And so it's good. These are interesting times. I mean, we'll have to see how this pans out. Yeah, please go ahead. The last comments.
One of our previous talks was on the digital rupee, right?
Yes,
This is going to be one big area where the digital rupee will be able to work well,
yes,
because
yes.
these are all transactions between entities which are going to be online, right? So
Yeah.
I, as a consumer, can pay with digital rupee to and right, all those facets of the digital currency, where the supplier, where the logistics provider, everybody is getting their fractional share of the digital rupee that I am
Mm,
pushing out, right? And they also need to purchase and stuff. They can also, right? So a manufacturer can also be on ONDC to purchase raw
mm, mm,
materials, right? So that too. So the ONDC can provide that umbrella ecosystem for even the digital rupee to be successful, and
mm,
could actually be the one of the best use cases for the digital rupee, right?
mm,
With no bank intervention, right? There would be no
mm,
bank intervention. There would be no charges, right? So
mm,
a 1 rupee that I pay out goes exactly as 1 rupee to and gets split among all the parties involved. There is no
mm,
what shave off which the bank is going to do on that. Right.
mm.
So
True.
I see that as a beautiful
True, absolutely. So as
option.
you're talking about this, I was also thinking of the another challenge that ONDC might face is about, so all these companies platforms on the same on ONDC. What about the user interface? How do they ensure that it's decluttered? Right? I mean, how do they position everything? I mean, designing the user interface, that is also one thing they'll have to
So in
look through.
fact, the way I understand it is that you'd have multiple people creating multiple user interfaces which sit on the
That
ONDC, right?
okay.
So I, as an independent developer, can create a ONDC consumer facing app, right? Which would which at the back end would use ONDC, but at the front end it would be another app. So I don't see an ONDC app sitting uh, on my
But
phone,
that
right?
will also mean that we'll have multiple apps again in this one.
Yes, that I see that as a possibility, right? So
In
I
that
can
case,
have a
what I think, if for
so,
that matter, if I have an Amazon app already,
mhm,
I and there are other 100 retailers,
true.
and if all of them create the independent platform, that means I don't think I'll have to download all of this. The very
So
value
it
proposition is if I have open ONDC, all of them will be there. That's what I
so the
think.
the retailers won't create their apps, right?
Hmm.
It'll be other service providers who'll create apps, right? And then the fight would be on the user satisfaction or the user experience of those apps. So I might use an Amazon app also, which is sitting on ONDC. I might use a Victor app, which is again sitting on ONDC. And if Victor has some good insights about how flow should be, how what how filters should happen, how search results should come out. Doing all that on the ONDC information, Victor provides me with a better UI, right?
Hmm.
And therefore, I prefer using Victor than using Amazon.
Okay. Let's see
So
how
that's
this
yeah.
this this comes out. Yeah. Very
So I
interesting
mean
conversation.
that's the idea
Hmm.
with the open network, right? That the
Hmm.
entire thing, it is all open source. Uh,
Hmm.
you get access um, as an app developer. I get access to the ONDC's APIs and stuff.
Yes.
I create a thing and I access
Yeah.
ONDC through that.
Makes
So,
sense. Yeah. Yeah.
so there,
Absolutely.
that is where it is a technology. It's a very complex technology platform that ONDC is
Yes.
aiming at,
Yes.
and it's going
Yeah.
to be tougher than UPI. UPI
Yeah.
was still
Absolutely.
one-dimensional. UPI was
Yes.
one-dimensional. It was just money transfer. Here,
Yes.
it's multiple
Not
things.
multiple, yes. I mean, that's what I was saying, that it's going to impact the entire digital ecosystem, right?
True, true.
But anyway, great, fascinating conversation. Interesting times ahead, and we'll see. I guess ONDC right now is running as a pilot in Meerut,
Yeah.
UP. So I maybe 2023 or maybe in 2024 it might have a more full scale launch. But obviously they'll have to
I,
take it gradually. Yeah.
they're doing an alpha in 12 cities and a beta in two. So Meerut
Two.
and one more
Yes.
should be
One is
there
Meerut.
in.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Okay,
Great.
thank you so
Exciting
much,
times.
George. So, yes, yes, absolutely. And we'll be back again with another interesting topic next week.
Yeah.
So,
Great.